There is a heaviness that sits in the chest of the modern human. It is not always a sharp pain, but rather a dull, constant pressure. It is the feeling that you are not moving fast enough. You look at your life, your career, or your relationships, and you see a gap between where you are and where you want to be. The silence of steady growth feels unbearable. You feel a frantic need to bridge that gap immediately. We are told that if we just work harder, sleep less, and push with more intensity, we can bend reality to our will. We believe we can conquer time itself. But often, this desperate need for speed is the very thing that ensures our failure. Let us sit for a moment and look at the nature of this impatience. We will travel back to a time long before screens and notifications, to the simpler yet equally anxious world of a Song Dynasty village. The sun hangs high and hot in the sky. The air is thick with humidity and the sound of cicadas. There was a man in this village, a farmer of growing reputation. He was not a bad man. In fact, he was known for his diligence. He wanted the best for his family. He wanted his fields to be the envy of the province. He had planted his rice in the wet, dark mud, just as his father and grandfather had done before him. But this year, he felt a strange anxiety. Every morning, he would walk to the edge of his paddy and squint at the green surface of the water. He saw the tiny green shoots poking through the surface. They were alive, they were healthy, but to his eyes, they were maddeningly slow. He would pace back and forth on the earthen dike, muttering to himself. He compared his field to his neighbor's. He wondered if he was falling behind. The fear of scarcity began to whisper in his ear. It told him that nature was lazy. It told him that if he did not intervene, the harvest would be small and his family would suffer. One day, the heat of the afternoon sun matched the heat of his impatience. He decided he could wait no longer. He needed to take action. He rolled up his sleeves and waded into the thick mud. The water was warm around his ankles. He bent down to the first rice shoot. With great care, but with firm intent, he pinched the delicate stem between his thumb and forefinger. He pulled it upward, just a fraction of an inch. He did not pull it out of the soil completely, but he tugged it until he felt the resistance of the roots. He stood back and looked. The shoot was now taller. It stood above the waterline more proudly than before. A smile broke across his sweat-streaked face. It was working. He had found a way to cheat the slow march of the seasons. He moved to the next shoot. Pull. Then the next. Pull. He worked with a frantic energy. His back ached. His fingers grew sore and cramped. The sun beat down on his neck, blistering his skin. But he did not stop. He was a man on a mission. He was taking control of his destiny. He moved row by row, ignoring the protests of his own body. He was helping his crops. He was accelerating success. By the time the sun began to dip below the western hills, the farmer was exhausted. He dragged his heavy legs out of the mud. He looked out over his field. Every single rice shoot stood taller than it had that morning. He had done in one day what nature would have taken a week to accomplish. He felt a surge of immense pride. He was a man of action. He walked home, his body broken, but his spirit soaring. He burst through the door of his modest house. His wife and son looked up, surprised by his disheveled appearance. He wiped the dirt from his face and proclaimed loudly that he was incredibly tired. But it was a good tired. He told them he had helped the rice to grow. He told them he had done the work that the earth was too slow to do. He ate his dinner with the appetite of a hero and fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. The next morning broke with a deceptive calm. The farmer's son, curious about his father's great achievement, ran out to the fields while the mist was still rising. The boy crested the hill and looked down at the family plot. He stopped dead in his tracks. There was no vibrant green greeting him. The field looked wrong. The boy ran closer. The rice shoots were not standing tall and proud. They were grey and withered. They lay limp against the muddy water. By pulling them upward, the farmer had severed their delicate roots from the soil. In his attempt to force them to grow, he had cut them off from their source of life. The field was dead. There would be no harvest. There would only be hunger and the bitter taste of regret. This story, told by the ancient philosopher Mencius, is not really about agriculture. It is a mirror for the modern soul. We look at the foolish farmer and we shake our heads. We think we would never do something so obviously destructive. But look closely at your own life. Look at the way you treat your own endeavors. How often do we pull at the shoots of our relationships? You meet someone and there is a spark, but the unfolding is slow. You want the certainty of commitment immediately. You text too much. You force deep conversations before the trust is built. You try to define the bond before it has had time to breathe. You are pulling the shoot. And often, you kill the connection before it ever has a chance to take root. Look at how we treat our bodies and our ambitions. We live in the era of the hustle. We are told to grind. If you are not seeing results in your business or your creative work, the advice is always to do more. Send more emails, post more content, sleep 4 hours a night. We treat our minds like machines that can be overclocked. We pull and pull at our own potential, ignoring the fact that our roots, our mental health, our sleep, our peace, are tearing. We see this in the gym. A young man wants strength. He does not want it in 3 years. He wants it in 3 months. He piles weight on the bar that his structure cannot handle. He trains every day, ignoring the pain in his joints. He feels like the farmer, proud of his intensity. Until the muscle tears, until the injury happens. Then he is forced to stop completely. The field is withered. The tragedy of the farmer was not that he was lazy. It was that he misunderstood the nature of growth. He thought that force could replace time. He thought that visible height was more important than deep roots. He confused agitation with progress. We must ask ourselves the difficult question. Where are we forcing things? Where are we trying to bypass the necessary seasons of waiting? The illusion of control is the most seductive drug of our time. It makes us feel powerful to be constantly busy, constantly fixing, constantly tweaking. But often, this is just a mask for our anxiety. We are terrified that if we stop pulling, nothing will grow. So, what is the alternative? Is it to do nothing? Is it to sit by the side of the field and hope for the best? No, that is negligence. The ancient wisdom suggests a middle path. It is the path of active waiting. Think of what the farmer should have done. His job was to prepare the conditions. His task was to till the soil, to ensure the water levels were correct, and to pull out the weeds that would steal nutrients. That is hard work. That is the work of the day. But once that is done, the farmer must step back. He must trust the seed. He must trust the sun and the rain. He must understand that the actual mechanism of growth is something internal to the plant, something he cannot touch without destroying. In your own life, this means identifying what is within your control and what is not. You can write the book, but you cannot force people to buy it. You can be kind and honest in love, but you cannot force the other person to be ready. You can work hard at your job, but you cannot force the promotion to happen on your timeline. There is a discipline in stopping. It takes more courage to wait than it does to act. When you have done your part, you must withdraw your hand. This feels dangerous. The ego screams that you are being passive. But this is the only way the roots can deepen. Imagine you are building a fire. You gather the wood. You strike the spark. You shield the tiny flame from the wind. This is your work. But if you poke at the wood constantly, if you pile on huge logs too early, or if you blow on it with all your lung capacity in a panic, you will snuff it out. You must let the fire catch. You must let it breathe. This week, try to catch yourself when you feel that rising heat of impatience. When you feel the urge to send that double text, to work until your eyes burn, or to force a resolution to a problem that is not yet ripe. Visualize the rice shoot. Visualize the delicate white roots deep in the dark mud. Remind yourself that pulling will not help. There is a time for plowing, and there is a time for watching. We must learn to respect the rhythm of the seasons within us. Winter is not a failure of summer, it is a necessary rest. Silence is not a failure of words, it is the soil in which understanding grows. Let the anxiety of the hustle fade for a moment. The world will spin without your constant interference. Your life is not a project to be managed into submission. It is a garden to be tended. As the wind blows over the fields of your life, ask yourself this: are you watering your future, or are you pulling it apart? The wise man knows that the grass grows by itself, but only if he has the strength to let it.